My name is Delaney Knoll. I'm 34 years old, born and buried under Montana dirt. My sister, Tessa, always told people I was the one born for mud. She meant it as a joke, I think. But even now, with her wedding veil billowing like something out of a bridal magazine, I know she never meant for me to stand anywhere but behind her spotlight. The ranch looked more like a set than home that day. Fairy lights strung between the barn's rusted beams. Champagne flutes balanced on reclaimed wood tables. A live quartet forcing elegance into a place that smelled like hay and blood. "You clean up nice," someone whispered behind me. I turned. Gareth Holcomb, Tessa's fiancé. The fiancé. Black suit, gold cufflinks, teeth too white for a man who once claimed he liked to keep it rustic. "I didn't expect you'd show," he said louder now, voice just enough to carry. "Thought you might be knee-deep in cow dung or fixing fences." Laughter popped around us like cheap firecrackers. I smiled, a tight, small one. Some of us don't need a spotlight to be relevant. "Sure," Gareth said, sipping his champagne. "But relevance only matters if people are watching." He turned before I could answer, leaving behind a trail of cologne and cheap ego. The worst part wasn't the insult. It was the phone. Someone slipped me 10 minutes later. A video of me, standing there, looking stunned, small. Background laughter layered like a laugh track. Already posted, already shared, already liked. I didn't watch it a second time. I walked through the barn, past the fake floral arrangements, behind the machinery shed, into the only place no one else remembered existed. Dad's storage room. The lock was still busted. No one ever fixed it after the last storm. Wind creaked the hinges like something trying to warn me. Inside, the air smelled like oil and old wood. I pulled back the tarp, moved the crates. There it was, his safe, still jammed into the back corner, still dusty from the day we buried him. 6 digits. He always used the year the ranch was bought. 194,865. Click. Inside, files. Bound. Labeled. And one envelope with my name on it. Property transfer in the event of sudden death. My fingers trembled. Inside, the notarized deed. Full ownership of the ranch. Sole beneficiary Delaney Marie Knoll. I stared, not in disbelief, in fury. Quiet ones, Dad used to say, are just storms waiting for timing. There was a scuff of movement outside. I shut the safe, locked the room, walked back toward the party. Face calm, steps measured. Tessa was laughing with her new in-laws. Gareth was sipping a cocktail, smug and oblivious. He looked up, saw me, raised a glass like nothing had happened. I smiled, the kind of smile you give before you set a field on fire. The courthouse smelled like mold and wax paper. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, flickering like they were deciding whether or not to die. I stood in front of a laminated glass window. The clerk behind it had a name tag that read Ray in bold red letters, but he acted like a man who didn't want to exist today. I slid the envelope under the glass. "Can you verify this document? It's a notarized deed. I need to know if it was ever filed." Ray squinted, leaned forward. "And you are?" "Delaney Knoll. The property listed is—" "I know what ranch that is," he cut in, voice dry. "Whole town knows. That land could raise cattle or kings." He disappeared into the back with the envelope. I glanced up. A tiny security camera blinked in the corner of the ceiling. A light pulsed red, then green, then red again. Behind me, someone cleared their throat. I turned. Empty hallway. 10 minutes passed. Ray returned, face drawn tighter than before. "It wasn't filed," he said. My stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" "I mean this copy," he held up the deed. "It's real. Signed, dated, notarized. But there's no record of it in the official transfer logs. No stamp. No digital scan. It's vanished. Documents don't just vanish. They do when someone with access wants them to. The buzz from the lights suddenly felt louder. Who had access back then? Ray hesitated. Your father's lawyer, Nolan Vickery. Cut. I drove straight through the valley, past the abandoned train track, past the diner where Dad used to sit and drink black coffee at 5 a.m. Nolan's office looked like time forgot it. Brown brick, faded sign, door that stuck halfway open. He was inside, behind a desk stacked with papers and a broken stapler. Delaney, he said, surprised. You look like hell. You filed Dad's will. I did. The public version. What about the deed? He paused. I handed it to him. Sealed. He said he'd take care of it personally. I tossed the envelope on the desk. He didn't, and now there's no trace. Nolan's eyes narrowed. Who has interest in the property? Tessa's fiancé, I said. Gareth. He's working with someone, trying to flip the ranch for development. You're saying Gareth buried legal documents to fraudulently take possession? I'm saying someone's playing chess with my life, and I just found out I'm on the board. Nolan leaned back. There's a copy of everything. Somewhere. But it's not going to be in the registry. Then where? His answer came slow, measured. Check the safe in the west barn. The one your father kept behind the grain silos. If he didn't trust the system, he'd trust the land. Cut. The barn was cold. My boots echoed across the concrete. Dust danced in the late afternoon light. I climbed over sacks of feed, pulled back a tarp, and there it was, another safe. Smaller. Older. Rust clung to the hinges like dead skin. I entered the same code. It didn't open. I tried Dad's birthday. Click. Inside, a flash drive, labeled in faded marker. If they come at night. My hands were shaking. I slid the drive into my laptop. One folder. Password protected. No hint what was inside. I stared at the screen. People don't hide what isn't dangerous. Cut. Back home. I dropped the flash drive into a ceramic jar on the shelf. I'd deal with it later. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. No text. Just a single video file. I hit play. Gareth. At a bar. Talking to someone in a dark suit. Once she signs, we liquidate. Fast. And if she doesn't... He smiled. Everyone has a pressure point. We just haven't hit hers yet. Pause. Rewind. Zoom. The man he's talking to? He's from Eveland Properties, the same firm that's been quietly buying land up and down the valley for the past 2 years. One of the documents they sent my dad had that letterhead. They'd been planning this before the wedding. Before Dad died. Before I even realized I was part of the game. I used to think the worst thing someone could do to you was forget you existed. I was wrong. The worst thing is when they remember you. And start building your cage. The next morning, Tessa called. Dinner tonight. Gareth's inviting someone important. You should be there. Flat. No warmth. No question mark. Who? A developer. Big one. Just. Don't wear boots. She hung up. Cut. I wore the boots. Not to be defiant. Just to stay grounded. The restaurant wasn't local. Gareth chose some new spot in Kalispell. Dimly lit, all glass and stone, the kind of place that serves food on slabs of rock and charges extra for salt. Tessa wore cream. Gareth wore arrogance. And the man across the table wore a face I'd seen before. Eveland Properties. Black suit. Clean cut. No wedding ring. No name offered. Delaney, Gareth smiled. You remember Everett. We're looking into options for the valley. Multi-purpose investment corridor. Brings jobs, revitalization. Legacy. Legacy. That word had weight. My father used to say, legacy's not what you leave behind. It's what you defend while breathing. I smiled. You planning to do something meaningful with the ranch? Gareth sipped his drink. We were hoping to merge it into a long-term equity holding, rezone for commercial use. Of course, everything depends on ownership clarity. Everett leaned forward. You hold partial title, I believe? My heart didn't race. It dropped. How do you know that? Public records, he said casually. Except, they weren't. The deed hadn't been filed. The flash drive wasn't decrypted. The only people who knew were Nolan, the county clerk, and whoever sent me that video. Distraction. I reached for my wine. Stopped short. Tessa was staring at me. Her smile too wide. Too rehearsed. You should feel proud, she said. You're part of something big. You finally matter. The table laughed. I didn't, because in that moment I realized something. This wasn't a dinner. It was a corner. A soft-lit trap. Cut. Later, in the restroom, I locked the stall. Pulled my phone. Opened the video again. Froze on the moment Gareth handed Everett a folder. Frame by frame, his watch glinted. Behind it, a paper corner flashed. AMC Bank. Dad's lender. I exited fast. Walked past the table. Gareth didn't flinch. He knew I'd seen it. Everett didn't even look up. Outside, air hit me sharp. I called Nolan. What do you know about AMC? I said, small, private. They don't do ranch loans. Then why was my dad wiring payments to them monthly? Silence. That's not in the estate documents, Nolan said. No, it's not. I hung up. Truth doesn't just rot. It ferments. Cut. Back at the ranch, I waited until midnight. Unlocked the safe. Inserted the drive. Tried 3 passwords. None worked. Then I remembered Dad's old hunting rifle. Serial number etched deep in the stock. Typed it in. The folder opened. 3 subfolders. One labeled Evelyn_confidential. I clicked. Emails. PDFs. Phone logs. One document stopped me cold. Provisional land transfer agreement. Signed by Gareth Holcomb. Co-signed by Tessa Knoll. The date? For weeks before the wedding. Before the humiliation. Before the inheritance. They already believed I wouldn't matter. Cut. A sound outside. Crunch of gravel. Too slow to be wind. Too heavy for a raccoon. I killed the screen. Grabbed the flashlight. Stepped outside. Nothing. Then the mailbox flag lifted. Slow. By itself. I ran. Inside the box, one envelope. No name. Inside a photo. Me. Taken from behind. That night. Watching the video. Captioned in red ink. We see everything you do. Stop digging. I used to think power came from ownership. Turns out it comes from silence. Until it's broken. The next morning, the note was gone. I checked the mailbox 3 times. No envelope. No photo. No red ink. Nothing. But my gut knew better. If someone wants you to know they're watching, it's never their first time. Dad used to say that before he locked the gates each night. Double padlock. Always counterclockwise. I walked the perimeter. One lock was twisted the wrong way. Subtle. Intentional. Cut. Nolan called. You were right, he said. I did more digging. About AMC? About your father. My pulse skipped. What are you saying? 3 months before he died, he took out a private loan under a shell company. Not ranch-related. Not legally traceable. The shell was registered to a woman named, hold on, Inez Foster. Silence. You know her, he asked. I haven't heard that name in 20 years. She used to work for Dad. Then she vanished. Cut. I found her in Butte. Still alive. Still quiet. She lived in a 2-bedroom house pressed between a liquor store and a pawn shop. I knocked once. Twice. A 3rd time, then turned to leave. The door creaked open. Inez was smaller than I remembered. Bent. But her eyes? Sharp as ever. You're Delaney, she said. You walk like your father. He trusted you. She nodded once. He shouldn't have. Cut. Inside, the air smelled like burnt coffee and old secrets. I worked for your father 15 years, she said. Bookkeeping, land records, favors. He wasn't a saint, Delaney. He owed people. Big people. And when the market turned, he made a deal. With who? Evelyn didn't start with Gareth. It started with what your father promised them. They didn't want the land then. They wanted access. To what? She hesitated. Runoff rights. Mineral leaks. Your father found something under the West Field. It wasn't oil, but it was valuable. What happened to it? I don't know. But before he died, he came to me, said he made a mistake, gave me a USB drive, told me to hide it. She reached under the cushion, pulled out a flash drive in a rusted Altoids tin. I took it. Her voice dropped. Be careful where you stick your shovel. The ground remembers everything. Cut. Back home, I didn't wait. Plugged the drive in. Encrypted. Password protected. Again. I tried everything I knew. Then typed. Counterclockwise. Click. One folder. Dozens of files. The first video dad. Sitting in the barn. Talking straight to the camera. If you're watching this, they're already moving. He looked tired. Like someone carrying an invisible war. I made promises I shouldn't have. And now your sister's involved. They got to her. They got to me. I tried to fix it. But they're not builders, Delaney. They're erasers. Next file. A scan of a contract. 3 names. Evelyn Holdings. AMC Finance. Tessa Knoll. Tessa. Dad knew. He'd been trying to undo her signature behind her back. Cut. A sound outside. Not gravel this time. Wood. Porch. I crept to the window. No one. Then the doorbell rang. I flinched, grabbed the bat from the pantry, swung open the door. A man stood there in a state trooper uniform. Tall, clean cut, but something was off. No vibe, no radio, just a clipboard. I'm looking for Miss Delaney Knoll. I kept the bat low. Who's asking? He smiled. Cold, mechanical, just need a signature for a delivery. He handed me the clipboard. Blank paper. I stepped back. I didn't order anything. His eyes narrowed. You sure? Then he looked past me. Into the house. He saw the computer screen, still glowing. He stepped forward. I slammed the door. Locked it. Twisted the bolt, counterclockwise. Ran. Back to the computer. Pulled the flash drive. Out the back window. Into the dark. Behind me, I heard it. The front door clicking open. I ran through the orchard barefoot. Branches clawed at my arms. A deer burst from the brush to my left, bolting into darkness. I didn't flinch. Only when I crossed the cattle gate and hit the edge of the property did I stop. Adrenaline burned like acid under my skin. The house was behind me now, but his shadow still pressed into my spine. I called Nolan. Voicemail. I sent a text instead. Someone just broke in. I have the flash drive. Meet me. Urgent. No reply. Cut. At dawn, I drove to the county records office, parked across the street, waited until the clerk unlocked the doors. The woman at the counter had a braid thicker than my wrist. I need to pull property title records for anything connected to Evelyn Holdings or Inez Foster. She frowned. That'll be a lot. I'll wait. Cut. I cross-checked for hours. Names repeated. Evelyn. AMC. And one I hadn't seen before. Maddox Carter. He wasn't listed as a board member. He wasn't listed at all. But he showed up in wire transfers. Every month. Large sums. Disguised as consulting fees. Backdated. Buried. Laundered. I printed everything. Called Nolan again. Still nothing. Cut. I drove straight to his office. Door locked. I walked around the back, found the fire escape open. Inside, files were scattered, drawers yanked open. The computer? Smashed. Monitors cracked. Power cord sliced. I opened his bottom drawer. Empty. Except for one sticky note jammed beneath the metal lining. Look under the barn floor. Bon. Dad's barn. My barn. Cut. Back at the ranch, the air was thicker than usual. The kind that smells like old pine and sweat and someone's breath right behind you. I walked into the barn. The floorboards creaked in rhythm, but something about the pattern felt wrong. Too even. Too hollow. I tapped one with the wrench. The sound echoed. Loose. I pried it up. Underneath, a fireproof box. Inside, a black notebook. No title. No index. Just pages and pages of Dad's handwriting. Ledgers. Maps. Codes. And names. Tessa. Gareth. Maddox. Even Everett. Then I found the last page. Dad's handwriting shaky. Rushed. If this gets into the wrong hands, it won't be about land anymore. It'll be about leverage. They don't want to buy. They want to control. They already do. Behind me, the barn door creaked. I didn't move. A shadow broke the light. Then a voice. I was hoping you wouldn't find that. Gareth. He stepped forward, still in his suit from the dinner. Jacket wrinkled. Tie gone. Was it worth it, he asked. All the digging. The paranoia. I've seen the contracts, I said. You forged them. You blackmailed my father. You manipulated my sister. He laughed. Soft. Like I'd just told him a bedtime story. You think this is about family? He stepped closer. This is about survival, Delaney. Your father made enemies he couldn't outrun. And now you're holding the only thing that can burn it all down. Good. You won't make it off this ranch with it. I raised the wrench. He stopped. Smiled. Don't you get it? I'm not the only one watching. Behind me, a soft click. Another presence. Another breath. A second man stepped into view. Everett. Gun in hand. Hand over the book, he said. Now. I looked at them both. Two wolves. Same coat. But I wasn't prey. Not this time. I tightened my grip. You boys ever hear the saying, don't corner something that bites? Because I wasn't alone either. And the sound that came next was the safety of my own shotgun cocking from the rafters above. The morning was gray. Cold air clung to the grass like a warning. I stood at the edge of the ranch, watching the fog roll over familiar fields that now felt foreign, like a territory I had regained but still had to learn to command. The radio crackled in the distance. Sheriff's voice. Static. Brief. Controlled. Delaney Knoll. You are clear to approach. Clear. But not safe. I drove the dirt road toward the barn. Tires kicking up dust. Heart hammering. Each breath felt like someone held a weight against my ribs. To some, forgiveness is weakness. To others, it's survival in disguise. I used to think that. I truly did. But standing here with everything at stake, I knew something deeper. Forgiveness doesn't mean you open the door again. Forgiveness means you build new walls. I passed the perimeter markers. Camera lights from media crews blinked like surveillance fireflies. Reporters whispered into phones. Lens reflections danced across the old wood. Gareth was already there. His suit was tacky now. Tie loosened. Eyes too tired for someone who once thought he could control the tide. Tessa stood beside him. Hands clasped, face pale. This was no wedding night glow. This was aftermath. Consequence. Everett hovered in the background. Hands shoved in pockets, jaw tight. They looked small here. No ballroom. No fancy restaurant. Just wind and dust and truth. I walked slow, measured. Gareth, I said, voice steady. He smirked once, like arrogance cost nothing. He'd lost nothing yet. You should have walked away, he said. I did, I answered. Right before I learned how to win. At that moment, Deputy Harper stepped into view, folder in hand. Title Records. His voice was firm. No mercy in it. Verified and restored. Deed is under Delaney Knoll. Legal and binding. The wind cut through Gareth's smirk. Tessa's eyes flicked away. Everett shifted his stance. Cut. Inside the old courthouse, reporters crowded every hallway. Flashbulbs popped like distant gunfire. Cameras shoved microphones toward me. I thought I'd be ready. I wasn't, because the truth hit not like revelation, but like consequence. A lawyer approached, tall, gray hair, eyes that felt carved from precision. Nolan Vickery, he said, your legal counsel. Beside him stood Deputy Harper, silent but steady. Together, they'd rebuilt the paper trail, filed mandatory reports, uncovered ghost accounts, exposed forged signatures, legally, irrevocably. Justice isn't blind. It just waits for someone brave enough to rip off the mask. I stepped up to the podium. Voices hushed. Cameras hummed. I didn't need notes. I only needed truth. My father believed this land was more than soil, I said. It was identity, purpose, and responsibility. Silence. And then, the real enemy wasn't ambition. It was silence, concealment, the belief that truth can be buried like weeds beneath history. Cut. Outside, the sun broke through gray. Light touched corners that had been dark too long. Gareth and Tessa were escorted away, their conversations muffled, their power already slipping like sand through fingers. Everett lingered. I watched him go. No threat, no mirror of fear, just consequence. Back on the ranch, I walked the same orchard where I once ran barefoot. Branches still scratched, the deer still bolted, but something was different. It felt like peace breathing over bone-deep tension. The cameras weren't here anymore. The helicopters gone. Just wind, and silence, and reclaimed ground. Nolan stood at the porch. You did what most people never find the strength to do, he said. I nodded once. Truth is a weapon, I replied, but only when you're willing to face every blade it carries. He smiled, quiet, respectful. Harper joined us. He handed me a folder. Final title, county seal, federal confirmation. I held it, weight in hand, translated to power in reality. But something inside me had been heavier, and that weight had lifted. Cut. I walked into the main house. Sunlight fractured through the windows. Dust motes floated like embers in a dying blaze. I placed the deed on the mantel. No celebration. Just breath. Then I opened the ledger from the barn. Dad's pages filled with debts, promises, borders, codes. I locked it again. Some truths are meant to be known by all, others only by those willing to stand alone. I stepped outside. The field stretched endlessly ahead, green and brown and alive. A place reclaimed, a place defended, a land that had bidden back but ultimately taught me how to fight with honor. And as the wind swept over the valley, quiet, fierce, and unyielding, I realized this. Not all battles are won with force. Some are won by refusing to be erased. Today I am not an outsider, not a forgotten sister, not a footnote in someone else's story. Today, I am the author of my own destiny. And the ranch? It breathes with me, because its heartbeat is freedom, not fear,